dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And you're back on Liberty Nation Radio. I continue to be Mark Angelides. We're continuing our conversation with longtime host of this here show, Mr. Tim Donner. Now, Tim, earlier in the show, we were discussing what you describe in a great article on LibertyNation.com as one of Donald Trump's chief political skills, and that is to get his Democrat opponents to defend the indefensible. And we were talking about this before recording, and it seems to me it's like Lucy with the football, because you can kind of see when he's doing it, when he's setting up, he's putting something in place that his political enemies or rivals are going to take the bait on. And you can see that, and you're thinking, just don't take the bait on it. Just don't do it. And yet there they are. They're Charlie Brown running towards the ball. And then Lucy pulls it away. And they go for it every time. And one of those issues, I think, is actually quite a contentious issue. And I think it deserves a lot of discussion and a lot of clarity on it, because it's about the recent executive order on burning of the U.S. flag, and Donald Trump saying he'd like criminal penalties applied to that. And so I was writing on that the day it came out, and I think I described it to our executive editorial team as writing this is like walking a tightrope that is also a tripwire at the same time. That there's really no way to. I mean, obviously, as a journalist, you just try and go straight down the middle and report the facts as they are. But you also want to get people interested in looking at the angles that haven't been covered. And so, Tim, let's start with Justice Antonin Scalia in 1989, who was the swing vote in the Johnson v. Texas case at the Supreme Court. And then a year later, that it was reinforced. And he described that as I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something, if it were up to me, all of these long-haired, sandal-wearing, bearded hippies who burn the flag would go straight to jail, but I am no king. And so he made his case very clear that it was absolutely unconstitutional. It was a Constitution-protected First Amendment right to burn the flag. And so Trump signed this executive order. And then the media went wild saying, well, this is against the First Amendment and against the Constitution. But for those who actually read, and I put this in my article, I said the media, they went first for the Supreme Court Almanac, when first they should have read the executive order. What was your initial take on that executive order? We'll go into what it actually says in a bit, but what was your initial take on it?
Well, my initial take was that I'm glad you had to write about it instead of me, because this is one of the few issues that really sort of divides the MAGA base. I don't think it divides it in a way where there's going to be infighting so much as disagreements. I think it's sort of like the Epstein files, the whole Epstein issue, where there are some in MAGA world who are still demanding more accountability and others who are saying, hey, the Justice Department told us what they have, what they know, and that's it. Let's move on. But in terms of the flag burning issue, I think there is a reasonable middle ground on it. I think when Antonin Scalia, who is sort of a heroic figure,
icon, I would say,
an icon among constitutionalists, when he says, as much as I deplore burning the American flag, it is legitimately, in his view, in the view of the Supreme Court justices that joined in his opinion, that this is freedom of speech. So I think that the sensible position on this is that if I go into my front yard and just to make a display of how much I hate America, and I burn the flag on my front lawn, that is protected speech, because it is not inciting violence. It's not fighting words, because it's not directed at anybody. But if you're going to burn the flag as a way to stoke a riot, then it is a legitimate add-on to criminal penalties, just like hate crimes are.
So yeah,
If
Tim,
you can add on time because of you add on time to the sentence because of the because of burning the flag. But if it's associated with violent or criminal activity, I think it's a totally legitimate thing what Trump did. But if it's just doing it in your backyard for whatever your personal reason is, that has to be protected speech.
yes. So just to dig into that a bit. So when Trump says that he wants a year in jail, what he's referring to, and surprisingly, not a single one of the big box media outlets dug into this, which is strange because I'm not a lawyer, and this was very easy for me to find out. Is what he was talking about was a sentence enhancement, which, as you rightly point out, is often associated with what so-called hate crimes, because there isn't actually a hate crime as such. It's a sentence enhancement. So
yes,
what happens is if somebody has a hate crime charge attached to an existing crime, then they can face an additional 1, 2, or 3 years. It's under Penal Code section 422.75. I got
good for you.
Thank you. There you go. Go and Google it just to check me on that, folks at home. But so that's what he was asking for. And so the executive order didn't say that you can't burn a flag. It's saying that if you are, it's essentially, it's adding a hate crime element to the thing. If it's directing somebody to go and, if it's trying to incite violence or a riot, whilst in the execution of another existing crime. And so in many cases so for example, there was a gentleman, a 20-year veteran of American forces, who burnt a flag, I believe, in Lafayette Square not long after the executive order was signed. And he was arrested. I don't know if he's been officially charged yet. He's been released. And he was doing it in protest to this executive order of Donald Trump's. And what he was charged with was not, I believe the charges that he's facing at the time of recording are not desecration of flag, because that's not a crime. But it's arson on public property. So it doesn't matter that it was a flag or a Hershey's wrapper or something, although obviously a Hershey's wrapper would be a lot easier to burn. And so it really is it's a third rail issue. And coming back to what we talked about in the first segment of the show, Tim, I wonder if there wasn't an element of trolling involved here by the president to have Democrats or his political enemies in general, people on the left perhaps, start burning flags. If I were Donald Trump, it's not something I would have got involved in, but I'm not Donald Trump. Yeah.
Well, he's got some sort of plan on this, but I should say that he's talked about making burning the American flag a crime for the last decade.
Yeah.
Since he came down that golden escalator, he's wanted to do this. And now, yes, he's forcing the left into saying it's perfectly fine to burn the American flag. So it becomes a cultural issue, not really a legal one. And, it's going to wind up at the Supreme Court, probably like virtually every other executive order that Trump has signed. Let me tell you something. If whatever it is that the Supreme Court justices make in terms of a salary, they deserve a raise, because Trump is keeping them so busy, more than any other president in my lifetime.
Indeed he is. And it's great entertainment for those who are interested in the constitutional process. We'll be back with Tim Donner after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.